So listen, if your files are looking like this one right here, you're in trouble. Chaotic is the lifestyle you must be wanting to live in. So anyways, we're going to be talking about client project folder structure, file naming, delivery prep, anything you can do to keep your clients not confused, okay? Let's talk about it. So first, we're going to look at the client project folder structure. So this is the setup that I always do for my stuff. So firstly, you have your contracts and docs folder. So we'll talk about what goes in each of them. Then we have your briefs and references folder. Then we have your working files, then your exports, your feedback and revisions, deliverables, inspiration, and then the etc. folder. Okay, so the difference between all of these, let's get into it. Firstly, the numbers of all of these are really up to you. I just label mine like this. I just want you guys to see that when you have the numbers on here, when the computer goes to organize everything, it'll put it in this order of like the numbers. So it's saying 00, 01, 02 instead of it being in alphabetical order. Because if it was in alphabetical order, then the first thing would probably be briefs and references, right? But I probably don't want that one first. So it just depends on what you want to do. Okay, so in your contracts and docs folder, put your contract in there. Okay, a lot of people, whenever they go to have their contract signed, it just gets lost in the email somewhere. But it's really good to have it there so that way, in case something comes up when you're in the middle of working on your project, you could be like, hold on, you said XYZ in the contract, or I said this in the contract. So just have it there as reference so you don't have to go through your email and try to find it. Okay, so that's that folder. So any kind of official documents and stuff, contracts, throw that stuff right there. All right, so next we have the briefs and references folder. So in this one, this is where you're talking about the actual project, okay? And just for you to get on the same page with your clients so you know what things should visually look like, what they should sound like, feel like, smell like, taste like, all that stuff, okay? And this is perfect because mood boards can go in here, okay? Because whenever someone just like explains something to you through, words, hey, I want this to be pink. I want it to look fuzzy. What shade of pink? You want Barbie pink? Or you want like baby pink, like what little girls have? You know what I'm saying? So all that stuff should go there. Because if you just have their Pinterest board, sometimes you can use Pinterest. It just depends on what kind of, freelancer you are. But I recommend if they're sending me stuff from Pinterest, I like to get that and put it in here so I can see it, and just easily drag and drop it into, if I'm working in Photoshop or Illustrator or something like that. So all that stuff can be there. If they have any links that they send you, maybe through email or however you guys may communicate, put those links in here. Maybe you have a Word document and you want to just keep putting all the links in there. Put it in there because it'll be super, super easy to refer back to those references. Okay? So next we have the working files. This can be as messy as it needs to be. Okay, so your Photoshop documents, your Illustrator documents, your InDesign documents, okay, whatever program you may be using, Affinity Designer, any of those kind of files, okay? And they don't have to be neat because this is, like I said, where you're working. So as you're building your project, that's what this stuff is. So for example, right now I have Illustrator open, so like if I was to go and, if I'm working on this file here, the actual Flair and Feast Bistro.ai file, that's the one that I would drop into that folder with the working files, okay? So, again, this can be as messy as it needs to be. I know you guys know how Illustrator files can be, right? You got stuff on the artboard, but you got stuff all outside in the pasteboard, right? So, that's where all that stuff would be. And that stuff, it doesn't need to be sent to your client, okay, unless maybe they ask you for it, but I would make a copy and clean it up. We'll get to that in a minute, okay? So next we have our exports folder. So this stuff, so you might think that the exports folder is the deliverables folder. These are two different things, okay? So when you're working in your working files, if you say, okay, I think this draft is good to show to my client, you're going to export that and sit it here in the exports folder. Don't you go and throw it in your I can't talk. Don't you go and throw it in your deliverables folder because it's not ready to be delivered. Okay? You want to put your drafts in here, and then once your client says whatever they say about it, you're going to take note of all that and then put that in your feedback and revisions folder. Okay, so every time you keep getting the feedback from them and you're doing all the revisions, you're going to be going back and forth between your working files, your exports folder, and then your feedback and revisions folder. Okay, make sense? Okay, all right. So once you get the feedback and revisions from them, once they confirm what it is that they want it to look like or sound like, feel like, whatever, then you're going to turn that into your deliverables. So the deliverables, that's what you're actually delivering to them, and the project is done. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So once you're done and everything's like at a close, that's where that goes. Okay, and this is where everything needs to be super neat. I mean, you should have been having all of your files neat along the way, but especially in the deliverables folder, because it has to be organized on their end. Something could be organized in your head, but you got to think about someone else who doesn't even know what all this stuff is. You might use a certain word and it's like, it's graphic designer jargon, and they're like, what does this mean? So try to make it easy for them to understand. If you got to say concept 1, concept 2, horizontal logo, vertical logo, things like that, big logo, small logo, the one to put on the building, the one for emails. So, all those kind of things. So just make it super easy for someone else to understand if they've never seen all these file names before. Okay. So for the inspiration folder, this is similar to the briefs and references folder. I would say when you're sent the brief initially, like when the project is like starting, that's where the brief goes, obviously, right? But any inspiration that you guys might get along the way, you can really put them in either folder. Personally, I use the inspiration folder for things that I come across and I'm like, oh, hey, I think they might like this. Keyword might. Okay, anything that's like for sure that they want to have, that's what I'm putting in the briefs and references. But inspiration is like a maybe. But you can kind of see those two as the same folder. It just depends on what you want. Like my brain works a little bit differently. So it just depends on what it is that you want to do. And then the etc. folder, this one, if I'm like not sure if I want to throw something in one of these folders, or if I'm just kind of still thinking about it, I'll just put it here. Now this folder here, it can be as messy as you want it to be. There really doesn't have to be any structure there if you don't need it to be, but it's there, but I would say for sure, if you were to use this entire client project folder structure, you probably don't really need to have 6 and 7. I just have it for myself, but definitely you need to have 0 through 5. Okay, some people might even try to combine 3 and 4. But yeah, okay. So the next thing I want to talk about are file naming tips. Okay, so let's go over, I think I have one right here. Okay, so look at this one. Look at how organized that is. So these would all be logo concepts, but look at how I named them in order by date. So each of them have the 2025 year, then it says 0919 or 0920 or 0929. So again, like how I was telling you before about like the double zeros on these folders, when you do that with your other files too, this helps to keep everything organized. So instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4 listed for all of your files, you may get confused. I mean, you might even get confused with these. So again, it just depends on how your brain works. So you might put A, B, or C next to each of these. It just depends on what you want to do. But I definitely recommend doing this so that way everything will be organized. Okay. So some other things I want to show you are just some more examples of how you can name these. So we went over this one already. Now this is not good because I don't even know what this is. You're saying final V4 updated, really final this one. If I'm working on this big project, I don't know what that is. Is it me working on a banner? Is it me working on a logo? Am I working on the mock-up? I don't know what this is. I mean, me as the designer, I probably know what that is. But if my client was to happen to see this, they're like, what is this? Like, what can I even use this for? Like, this is useless. So yeah, definitely don't do that. Okay. So I want you guys to see this as well. I recommend a setup like this. Look at how this says client name and then logo concept 1. Okay, so this is a really good template that I like to use whenever I'm working on my files. It kind of just depends on the project or the person maybe. This one I wouldn't really recommend it. This one is kind of logo final V2, I think this is how I would do it. Let me just show you. I would probably, again, I would put, maybe McDonald's for that part. I might do, some people like to do dashes, some people like to do underscores, but you can maybe do McDonald's logo concept, and maybe you can put -1 if you want to. Or you could put like the one at the beginning, you could put 01. So again, it just depends on in what way you want to organize it. But here's actually another one that I did it for Starbucks. I didn't even notice that. But I have a Starbucks logo concept -1 right there, and that was just a copy. So these two are pretty much the same thing. But notice how I put 1 at the end there, then I put 2 at the end right here. So, but that's pretty much the way that I like to set mine up, just to help me just stay organized. Okay. So now something else I want to talk about is the things that you should be delivering to your clients. So again, it depends on the project. It also depends on your price point. So let me show you what I mean. So let's say in your you're going to deliver everything to someone. Maybe you branded some things for them. Let's use this example right here. Like, let's say, I was working on this logo for this restaurant, right? So they asked me for the logo, right? I should be giving them the SVG file, so that way they're able to scale it up and down. I'm not only giving them PNGs or JPEGs or something like that, right? Because I know when you have logos, you're going to have to size it up and down depending on what you need to put it on. So I'm not just going to give them like, PNGs of all of these right here or something like that, right? I need to give them a whole package of all the images. But since I'm going to be giving them so many files, I don't want to just be dragging and dropping all of those and just having them to be sitting in a folder, because you don't want to be trying to send that through email. Okay. So you should get everything, put it all in a folder, and then use the compress option. So let me show you guys how to do this in case you don't know. You want to select everything and then right click it and go to compress to, and then hit zip file, and then it'll turn it into a zip file. Okay, so that's how that works. So once you send them this, it also makes the file smaller, so that's why it'll say compress zip folder. So when you do that, it makes it smaller, it makes it easier to send, because whenever you're working with something like email or a Google Drive or maybe something like that, it really just depends. Programs don't really like when you send a bunch of individual files at once. If you send one, you gotta wait for it to load. Send another one, wait for it to load. Anybody got time? Okay, so that's why I really recommend that you do this. Okay, so make sure you send the zip file. Now, let me go back to the whole thing about what kind of files to send. Again, depending on what the project is, maybe this restaurant only was asking me to make shirt designs. If they're only asking me to make a shirt design, like maybe they only want this so that way they can put it on their shirts. Personally, I'm only sending them the PNG. Okay, so that way they can just get it, send it to whoever needs to, print the design and then put it onto the shirt. Okay, they don't need to have my working files to the point where they have to, be able to change all this stuff and change the color and the size and, move the like anchor points and stuff like that. Like, they don't need to be doing, all of this stuff. Like, why do you need that if it's just for a shirt design? You see what I'm saying? So this is also bring me to my next point about protecting your work. Someone can get this entire working file and they can make more stuff off of it. So would you rather have them to come to you to make more stuff for them, or have them to try to make it on their own? I mean, you might say they don't know how to do it, but you can easily try to find someone probably with less experience and probably cheaper and just get them this file. And you see what I'm saying? So just to and it's not me trying to say be greedy, but you also can charge for this working file. Okay, now don't charge them crazy and be like, oh, it's gonna cost $100. For me, depending on what the project is, I will charge just like $25. Especially because I spent so long on this. You're not gonna steal my work. Okay, so it really just depends. But if someone's asking me for a logo, then I'll give them this stuff, like that's included in the package. But for a shirt design, no. So again, it just depends on the project. Okay, so even when you're working in something like Photoshop, if you're asking me for a shirt design, you're not getting my Photoshop file with all my layers. Okay, I work hard on that. If maybe you give me a photo of, you and your dog and your dad and stuff, and you want that in the shirt design, cool. Those are your pictures. But having my sketches and my smoke effects and stuff on them, you're not gonna get that. Okay, so hopefully y'all understand that, and I'm not over explaining. But yeah, so you might want to be sending things like the Illustrator file, Photoshop file, PNGs, JPEGs, print ready PDFs, all those things, SVGs. But yeah, just make sure that you zip that folder for sure before before you send it off. It just makes it a whole lot easier. Okay, so now next thing I want to talk about is how to prevent chaos with your clients once they get the files. Listen. When your client gets the files, so let me just show you. When they open this up, okay, well, in their deliverables folder, they won't be seeing all this. But let's say they're opening up, this. They might see it and they're reading it, and you might think, oh yeah, they'll know this because of how I labeled it. Just in case, okay, put a little README or file usage document in there so you can give them instructions on what everything is and how it works. Okay, so for example, you might say, and it could just be a little paragraph, nothing too crazy, but you could just say something like, hey, here's how to open this file. You must open it in this program. Don't try to open it, through email or something. Because maybe if it's an Illustrator file, they don't have Illustrator, or if it's an SVG file, they don't have that, so tell them maybe who they should be sending it to. Because people like us, if you're a graphic designer or you might do photography, videography, whatever, we understand a certain language. Your client doesn't. You also should teach them the language too. You might not think about it sometimes, but teach it to them. Don't be gatekeeping that stuff, okay? Just saying, because some people will, and that's weird. But anyways, because they might need to know what to say to the person that's going to print their shirts or whatever. So make sure you include some kind of paragraph or a few paragraphs, but just some kind of document in there that tells them how these files work. So I do that, and sometimes I'll also still put a little document in there, or I might email it to them, and it'll be a link to me looking like how this video is, and I'll do a screen recording and I'll have myself on the screen, and you'll see me clicking and doing whatever, and I'll walk them through how these different things look. Okay, and I feel like that's really helpful for them, because not everybody, I'm not going to say not everyone knows how to read, but not everyone knows how to comprehend what you're saying. It might make sense in your head, but for someone who doesn't know graphic design or photography or all this jargon, you got to break it down. Okay, show them how this stuff works. It's easier to show someone something versus telling them. Okay, so that's really what I recommend. And you got to think of all this stuff treat it like an instruction manual for your work. Okay, so just think about that. All right, and for all this stuff that I'm telling you, contracts, maybe you don't have a contract, how to set briefs up, knowing what questions to ask your client ahead of time, blah, blah, blah. I have a client prep kit on the way. Okay, today is the 21st of September. It's dropping on Friday the 26th at 12 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, so you might be watching this video in 2028. I don't know, but the link will be in the bio. Not the bio. What's the thing called? In the description. So if you go before the 26th, then you'll just see a waiting page. But if you see it on the 26th or after, then you'll see the file. So I definitely recommend that you guys check that out, because it's going to have anything that you need. You can see the whole list of what's going to be in there right here. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Any questions you might have about graphic design stuff, freelancing stuff, I don't know, resume stuff, all that stuff, just let me know. And also hit the like button if you've ever sent the final file more than once. Okay, so make sure you also subscribe, so that way you can get any more freelance advice about literally everything, whether it's, like I said, photography, videography, really anything creative. Okay, I got you. All right, so once again, my name is Shatara, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.